everybody. Welcome to the SoxProspects.com podcast. We are the web's #1 source for information on the Boston Red Sox farm system from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Pawtucket, and all stops in between. Thank you for listening. It is Halloween night. My name is Chris Hatfield. I am the executive editor of Sox Prospects. I just got done giving out like 7.5 pounds of candy to the hordes of children that trick-or-treat in my neighborhood. And I am joined, as always, by our lonely 3 trick-or-treater director of scouting, Ian Kundle. Ian, what's going on, buddy?
Well, it wasn't 3 individual groups. It was one group of 3 people. So,
my God, seriously?
Oh, yeah. So I have quite the excess of candy.
It's not good. We have a bunch because we bought 3 Costco-sized bags.
Oh, I bought like 2 little bags, and I still have a lot left. And I don't eat candy, so I'm probably going to go donate it somewhere.
Nice. Favorite Halloween candy?
I just said I don't like candy, so none of the above.
None of them?
I mean,
you don't have one that you'll eat?
No, I'll eat like Kit Kats and Twixes and stuff. I don't care for them.
All right. Interesting.
I preferred to sell my candy back to dentists and get money when I was younger.
Awesome.
There was a great buyback program in my town.
There was a buyback program?
Oh, yeah. It was great. I took great advantage of it. You got dollar per pound, or money by the pound. I don't remember how much it was, but when you're a little kid, anything is a lot. So
the liberals ruining America.
Apparently. It's Massachusetts. What do you expect?
Well, as always, we want to give a shout-out to our $5 level Patreon supporters. That'd be Sox Signatures, Cal Costigan, Tyler Woodrow, Jeff Trainer, David Nardone, Tim Harding, Bill Stanton, Deb Kendall, Evan Kirkwood, Hurricanes 1, Chris Fox, James O'Hara, Nathan Kenyon, Andrew Wallen, David B., Ben Burnett, Cy, Al Mendel, and Kevin Catrides. And as always, send your emails to podcast@soxprospects.com. We want to talk about what you guys want to hear about, so make sure you hit us up. I just realized that I haven't checked because it's been a minute since we've casted pods. That's on me. This is literally the first night I've had free in about a month. But we've got a couple of questions we'll get into, a couple of things that we would have gotten to anyways. And we've got at least one from a patron. Let's see. Oh, we've got several questions, Ian, so we'll have to make sure we get back to those. So we'll close with those.
Awesome.
And we will also... we have a lot to talk about, even though it's the offseason. The World Series ended yesterday. Whole bunch of free agents were announced today. 131 across baseball. I think 9 of them Red Sox. So,
speaking of free agents, did you see the Garrett Cole quotes after the game?
Yes. Do you think he's going back to Houston?
No chance.
Do you think he was happy he got left in the bullpen in Game 7?
No. I have a very strong suspicion he will end up in either Los Angeles or New York.
Yeah, I think he's going to the Yankees personally.
I think he's going to the Angels, but yeah. I think it's one of those two.
I would love to see Garrett Cole in the Angels because I want the Angels to be good.
Just because Mike Trout.
Because I want Mike Trout to be like I'm sick of he's not the MVP, his team didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be an interest. I think just kind of spiraling off what you said though, that in the past, I feel like last offseason especially, and kind of with the Red Sox being in a status quo, they're kind of, since Dombrowski came in and made all those moves that first offseason, there hasn't been a lot of to look forward to or intrigue. Whereas this season, this offseason, it's a complete wild card. There is a lot of intrigue. There's a lot. Usually during the offseason, nobody talks about what the Red Sox are going to do, around the game. Right. I'm getting, hit up all the time. People wondering, what do you think is going to happen with this person? Have you heard this? There's stuff flying around.
The offseason. Go ahead.
And I know it's just because, I think this hot stove season is going to be ridiculous if you're from the Boston area and you're a Red Sox fan, because they have a lot to do. They have a new front office, or they have a new guy in charge, which I'm sure we'll talk about momentarily. And they have some very hard decisions that are going to have to be made.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely are. I mean, if you look at it, honestly, I think this offseason is going to be more interesting than the last 2.5 months of the season. The actual season.
The last 2.5 months of the season were they interesting at all?
No, that's my point. But
I was going to say, I thought you were going to say the last 2.5 off seasons.
No. I'm saying this. Well, that's also true, probably. I mean, what the heck? Last offseason should have been interesting, and that's how we got here. That's what we talked about on the previous podcast.
I think that the stuff that's going to happen is going to rival like that first year when Dabrowski came in and made like the Sale trade and all that stuff, or the first full offseason maybe, or was it the second offseason?
Was Kimbrel.
Second offseason, like those two offseasons, like there's a lot that has to happen this offseason.
Yeah,
and,
they can't stay put. There's someone on the board who says on our forum who says I think they're already done. I think they're going to stay put. I don't think they're going to bring in anyone. I think everyone's going to stay. It's like, no, they can't. If they do that, they're dead.
They literally can't. Yeah.
They're literally dead.
I mean, but I think that's like the off-season discussion, I'm sure, is something we'll talk about a lot.
We'll get more into that. But we do want to talk about Chaim Bloom, the new chief baseball officer.
Kind of a sick title.
CBO.
CBO. It's kind of badass.
CBO.
Yeah.
It's like Zebo. But no, the chief baseball officer, Chaim Bloom, from the Tampa Bay Rays. Great hire. Ian, you had mentioned it in the last podcast. It was apparently the Dave Dombrowski one. I didn't realize this until I checked the other day. Mm-hmm. But you said one of the Rays guys, meaning Bloom, as one of them. You've been all over it. He struck me when the lists were coming out as a guy that seemed really intriguing.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about him. I don't want to get too deep into that yet. But we're also going to talk about, we've got the season end rankings. So, the guys who are here, the guys who are in the system, we got plenty to talk about. There was a lot of movement. I think the only guys who stayed put were Mata and Casas up top, potentially.
Yeah, I think it's like the top. Yeah, you're right.
I think those are the only two guys who stayed put.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess Tanner Houck technically stayed in place at 7.
Yeah, and I think Chatham stayed in place.
No, Cameron Cannon stayed in place at 16. Chatham moved up 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I'm sure we can kind of, when we're talking about the rankings too, we'll talk a little bit about the AFL, I'm sure too, because some of that stuff was inspired AFL by hearing like some stuff from the AFL. But
that'll be in the context of that, and of course your emails as always. So let's get into the new. I guess the bigger way we could frame this, and it's mostly going to be about Bloom, but what has been happening with the Red Sox since we last were on here.
Nothing. We literally, I give them credit.
Well, not nothing.
No. But what I mean is, like, this was a stealth search. Is that what you were going to get at? Like,
no. I wasn't going to get at that. What I was going to say is what's been happening. I mean, I guess we didn't hear about it until boom, he was hired.
That's what's impressive to me is like usually these things are, especially with the Red Sox, are conducted pretty publicly.
Yeah.
Whereas this thing, nothing leaked. Like. I got tipped about it like an hour before everyone started hearing about it and sent it to you guys, but that was it. Like, it just it just was way under the radar, and then boom, and then it just within a couple days it was done.
Well, I think what happened, the reason for the Bloom hire is, or the reason it went down the way it did, not the reason they hired him, is that I think what happened is they waited to see. So, for example, when the Dodgers got eliminated,
I had this theory too. I think they made a courtesy call to Andrew Friedman, and he said no, thank you,
and then they moved on. And they had been doing their due diligence, but hadn't interviewed anyone.
I think
is what I at least hope was happening.
Yeah, well, it seems they interviewed the internal candidates because they had to satisfy the I can't remember the name of the rule, but the interview minority. The candidates rule. I don't know what it's called.
It's the Rooney rule in the NFL. I don't think.
Yeah, no, I know that's. But they satisfied that apparently by talking with Eddie and Raquel too.
Oh, Raquel Ferreira. That makes sense. Yeah.
So
that makes sense. And we should mention of the so-called Gang of Four. The news that came out that I don't think ever got followed up on, Ian, is that one of them was interviewing for a job elsewhere.
Yeah,
it's not O'Halloran because O'Halloran was named the GM.
You can guess. I'm going to guess.
I'll come out and say I'm assuming it's Eddie Romero.
I think it's Eddie. I would say with very high likelihood it's Eddie Romero. And it makes sense. I mean, he and
O'Halloran would have been the candidates for that GM position under Bloom.
Yeah, and but I think it makes, like, when you think about kind of what those guys' roles are, O'Halloran makes more sense as a complementary piece to Bloom.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because Bloom comes from more of like the baseball ops, like scouting. He works a lot with the pitchers, and that's kind of like what Eddie's more comes from. Like, he was obviously the international director, and he came through the ranks of doing international scouting. Mm-hmm. Whereas O'Halloran's more of like a contract numbers guy. when in the baseball operations mold. So they kind of complement each other well. Whereas there might be some like kind of some carryover or similar areas between Romero and Bloom. So
yeah, well, let's get into his background then. I guess this is Chaim. Chaim. Chaim Bloom. If you're not going to try and do the guttural sound at the beginning, but it's like Chaim.
Yeah.
Bloom. So he wrote for Baseball Prospectus in 1997. Continued writing for it until he joined the Tampa Bay Rays in February of 2005 as an intern, which is crazy. Prior to joining the Rays, this is all from the top-notch source Wikipedia, but I think we can say it's relatively safe that this is correct.
Well, it's also in the press release they put out.
Is it? I don't even have it.
Yeah.
His entire... Okay, maybe I'll pull that up. But at any rate... Okay, yeah, let me pull that up instead. I don't want to read from Wikipedia if I don't have to. It's probably in my trash, though. Nice thing about his name is you could... No, I don't have it. Oh, yeah, here we go. Okay, hired Chaim Bloom as the chief baseball officer. Sorry. Okay, so he's spent the last 15 years with the Tampa Bay Rays, including the last 3 as senior VP for baseball ops. He worked... I'll just read it. Over his tenure with the club, Bloom worked in nearly every area of the club's baseball ops department, was an integral part of both the Rays' player development efforts and the team's on-field performance at the major league level. This past August, Originally hired by the Rays as a baseball ops intern in 2005, he joined the club on a full-time basis shortly after and was appointed assistant director of minor league operations in 2008. And that he did player dev, including player evaluation, skill development, and integration of new technology and information sources, staffing, and overall philosophy. He later became director of baseball operations in November of 2001, and following the 2014 season was promoted to VP baseball operations. In that role, included oversight of personnel, domestic and international player dev, international scouting, contract negotiations, salary arbitration, budgets, and strategic planning. Began his baseball career as a baseball ops intern with the Padres and as a legal/corporate partnerships intern with Major League Baseball. He went to Yale and graduated in 2004 with a degree in classics, which makes him 2 years older than me. I am doing nothing with my life. Oh, well. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's a wide-ranging background. He's exactly who I wanted him to hire. Not literally him, but, like, the idea of him.
Yeah, I mean, he fit the mold. Like, obviously, I said I wanted one of the Rays guys. Like, they come from a progressive front office that is used to creative thinking, working within a budget, and getting the most out of their players. They're not afraid to, kind of shake things up if they need to. They'll make hard trades. I mean, like, I'm going back to the Rays, but, like, for example, trading Chris Archer in his prime peak value for 3 potential stars, like.
Obviously, not every trade is going to be the Chris Archer trade.
I understand that, but like they do weird things. They'll do the prospect for prospect trades and stuff we've talked about a lot that the Red Sox just never do. Like I'm thinking of one they did with the Rangers this year. They traded Nick Solak for a pitcher. I can't remember who the pitcher was.
Yeah.
But he comes from a creative front office. He comes from a strong player development, baseball operations background. He's worn a lot of hats in his career.
Yep.
He's really, from what I understand, he's very good with. It seems evaluating pitchers seems to be a strength of theirs, or I don't know if it's just the Rays way or how much he was involved, but it seems he was pretty heavily involved in that. And yeah, it's kind of like a fresh, new ideas that the front office needs. Cause as we talked about a lot, like a lot of these guys have been here together forever. And, now they're bringing in, a lot of them are staying, but you're also bringing in some new ideas and some fresh blood to kind of reinvigorate everyone. And I think kind of like, shake things up a little bit, which frankly is what they needed because the status quo wasn't going to work. This team was on the ropes and just the way they were going was not a sustainable future. I know that was the buzzword from the press conference, but
what was not dictatorship, but autonomy or something, autocrat.
It's like a collaborative, sustainable. It was great. The sustainable part I had great pleasure in given my background, but sustainability is good. But no, it was I liked him from that get-go. I'm very interested to see what kind of happens going forward, and frankly, he's the type of guy that I would trust more to be in charge when you're doing something like having to consider trading Mookie Betts than some of the other options.
Yeah, well,
especially being Dave Dombrowski.
We're gonna need to talk about Mookie Betts next podcast.
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot.
You are so ready to trade him, and I'm
not ready to trade him. I'm realistic. There's a huge difference. I don't want to trade him if I'm the Red Sox.
You're ready for the trade of him. Is that better?
Yeah, I want to see good prospects. Is that bad? But no, like, I'm realistic. If he's not, we should do this another time.
Yeah, we'll do this another time. Okay, let's not get into it. If he's not going to
sign long term, you have to trade him. That's okay, my.
But we're not going to go there yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, the example was today. I don't remember the guy's last name because I'm stupid. But the pitcher Osich.
Josh Osich.
Yeah. Josh Osich.
It was his first move, we should mention. They made their first move today.
Yes, so they claimed Josh Osich. That's going to get somebody in trouble at some point. Osich. Well, at least Cicchini doesn't sound like a swear word if you say it wrong.
Sure.
But at any rate, they claimed Josh Osich off waivers from the Chicago White Sox. And the thing with claiming a player off waivers, the entire Dave Dombrowski tenure, the Red Sox claimed 6 players off waivers. In the past 2 years, they claimed 1 player off waivers, and that's Joey Curletta, who was in Double-A Portland, who I think has been outrighted off of the 40 at this point.
Yeah, I saw him this season.
I mean, yeah, we've talked about him.
Yeah.
But that's it. I mean, so before the Curletta in May of 19, the last player before that they claimed off waivers was June of 2017 when they claimed Doug Fister, which I would argue is purely out of necessity because they needed a starter.
Yeah.
In April of 2017, they claimed Chase Darno off waivers, not Travis, but Chase. People remember his 1 month with the team in which he barely played, basically because they needed a 25-man. Again, it was, we have a hole in the roster. We need to go get someone. Oh, here's a guy on waivers. The last comparable waiver claim I would say they made is Steve Selski in January of 2017. That didn't go anywhere.
Mm-mm.
The 2 prior waiver claims before that during the Dombrowski tenure were Brian Holiday in August of 2016, which was literally because they needed a third catcher for September, and Roman Mendez in September of 2015, which I don't think Dombrowski had been with the team for a month yet. It wouldn't surprise me if he had nothing to do with it. I mean, heck, I think Ben Cherington was still around. It was probably a Cherington. Oh, no, Cherington immediately left. I'm sorry. But at any rate, like, you know, I stand by the fact that I bet Dave Dombrowski had nothing to do with going to get Roman Mendez.
No, but I think what you're trying to say is that, like, this is the type of move, like,
this is the type of move they didn't make.
Yeah. They're acquiring a guy who, you know, he's got 3 years of control left. He's a, what do you call it? Left-handed specialist. Like, he gets lefties out at a really good clip. He can't get righties out at all. But looking at the numbers, and I think our Red Sox stats is all over it. He pointed out that he faced way too many righties last year.
Yeah, he did tweet about that.
For what he is, like, he's a lefty specialist, and like there's a role for those guys. The Red Sox have churned through those guys over the last couple of years, and that's the kind of guy, especially with like the expanded roster next year, because I think it goes to 26.
26 and but it only expands to 28 in September. Right.
So you can carry an extra, like, a lefty specialist in the pen. He was really good against lefties last year. So it makes sense. It seems like it's a clever move. It's a good move, depth. And it's the kind of guy in the past, like Dombrowski would just trade a low level prospect that with some upside for, you know what I mean?
He would trade like, who in this system would he
trade? Like, I don't know, like
Cutter Crawford before he had Tommy John.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, or someone, I don't know.
Like someone of that ilk.
Or like Joan Martinez for him, or like Danny Diaz or Eduardo Bizardo.
I don't know
or
about
something.
Danny Diaz, but yeah, the rest of the guys you're naming are exactly the right guys. So yeah, but that's the thing is Dombrowski knew how to make trades for players he needed and knew how to sign free agents because they're right there.
He's good at it. I mean, and he won a World Series. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. But
exactly, he did a good job. But it's just like this is the buzzword I've been using is the lack of creativity. They were not creative while Dave Dombrowski was the president of baseball operations for the Boston Red Sox. They were terrible with roster moves around the margins. For example, the bench in the back of the bullpen. I mean, Eduardo Nunez was with the organization for, a year longer than he should have been? Minimum?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he was pretty good. I mean, he had like the Eduardo Nunez game in the playoffs last year, right? The one game that he was all over, but he shouldn't have been on the team to do that. Like,
no.
It's, you know.
Well, they also, like, if you look at what happened this year, like, they're running out, like, Josh Smith, Ryan Weber.
Yeah,
like,
what the hell, man? Like, yeah.
Those guys are just not players that the Red Sox should be having to pitch in, like, May, let alone, like, the end of the season. Or in September, let alone, like, May. Yeah.
They literally ran out of starting pitching.
Yeah.
How does that happen? You know, and it's because you're relying on Brian Johnson and Hector Velasquez to be one-win players again, which they weren't.
If you've seen them, that was not likely to repeat itself.
You knew it wasn't going to happen, and you knew, or at least if you're going to rely on them for that, have the backup option be better than Erasmo Ramirez.
Yeah, it's just it's a depth move. He's a guy that probably, you know, they bring him in now. They see what they have in spring training, and he could maybe clear waivers if he doesn't make the team. But I think, you know, given the roster construction, I'm assuming they're going to go 13-13 next year. Or what do you think? 4 pitchers and hitters. What do you think a roster construction with 26 will be? 14-12 or 13-13?
I mean, what is he usually? 12 pitchers? I think they'll add the pitcher.
I think they will too. So you can afford to carry an extra just lefty. So yeah. That's why, like, I like the move. I mean, and it's, you know, he's under team control. I think he's $1 million projected arbitration according to MLB trade rumors. Like,
is he?
I think that's what it was. Like, that's something they can afford to do. So yeah, it's a good way to start. But now, obviously, it's a very small move in context of what lies ahead.
I want to look up. Of course, I put my. For those who are wondering why the audio sounds different today, I'm trying something different instead of my headset. I've got a podcast mic that I never use. So I'm using that. All right, so let's see here. OSICH. Yeah, $1 million on the nose for Osich. So maybe you try and sign him a little early to $900K or something. But yeah, I mean, the other thing with Bloom is just, you know, the familiarity with player dev, the state of mind to make deals. I mean, to me, the ideal GM is going to be somewhere between Dave Dombrowski and Ben Cherington. I think Cherington was too loath to give up young players in trades. He wasn't really willing to kind of take a potential hit down the line to get wins now to a degree that you sometimes need to do.
And I think even like with the Rays, you look at the in-season trades they made this year. Like the one that I come back to is they traded Jesus Sanchez, who was seen as like one of their top prospects, to the Marlins for Nick Anderson and Trevor Richards.
Yeah, give me some Nick Anderson in my life.
Nick Anderson's one of like the best relievers in baseball in the second half of the season. And Trevor Richards is like a starting pitching depth with some upside who you put him in the Rays pitching machine and you never know what's going to happen because their ability to turn like guys into good starters is insane.
The Red Sox could have used Trevor Richards this year.
Exactly. They could have used Nick Anderson too, but the Rays will make those trades. If they wanted to trade a prospect, if there was a guy they wanted to go get, they'd go get him. So
yeah, they're willing to trade guys. So I think assuming that Bloom is what we think he's going to be, which because let's face it, we don't know.
No, but we're all speculating here.
Yeah, assuming he is who we think he's. Yeah, well, going off the Rays track record, because we don't know how much he versus anyone else. It seemed
like it was a two-man. It was like him and Neander.
Eric Neander, yeah.
Neander were the two, at the top, so.
Yeah. So I'm excited about the Bloom edition. I'm interested. It feels very similar to the Theo Epstein hire, honestly, to me. I will say it's a gut thing, but
I'm glad though they went for someone young and different. Like I'd much rather this than going out and like bringing in like Billy Beane or like someone who's like established with another team who's good. But like this is like it's an exciting move, frankly. Like
Friedman I would have been cool with.
Yeah, that's a little different because the Dodgers are a juggernaut. But but yeah, it's like. This is like a new guy with ideas. He's still on the young side, but you're also maintaining continuity because it seems like the majority of the front office is going to stay. Like they've obviously had some turnover in the scouting and player development areas, but otherwise, there's the key guys a lot of the key guys are staying in place. Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited about Bloom personally. We should probably mention some other comings and goings with the Red Sox. They hired a new assistant hitting coach, a new pitching coach, a new assistant pitching coach. The new assistant hitting coach is Peter Fatz, who was with the Twins, I believe, Ian? Yep, he was with the Twins. Gets hired over from them. The new pitching coach is Dave. The new pitching coach and assistant pitching coach were both hired from within the organization. Dave Bush, who was basically the assistant to Brian Bannister in his department, essentially running the minor league side of that more or less. But I think it was basically his.
But he also spent some time with the big league club this year.
Bush did?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, because it's funny because everyone's. So Bannister was the assistant pitching coach, I guess, technically?
I don't know.
He wasn't always in Boston.
No.
So people are saying, like, oh, he got demoted. Like, no, I think they just changed his responsibilities.
I agree.
And he's just focusing on the minor league side now.
Yeah.
So I think, so Dave Bush kind of gets pulled out of that department and gets put into the assistant pitching coach role, the head pitching coach role. The assistant pitching coach for the Red Sox now is Kevin Walker, and Walker has been with the organization since 2009, has worked his way up through the system like a player, frankly. He spent 2009 with the Lowell Spinners, 2010 with the Greenville Drive, 2011 through 2014 with the Salem Red Sox, 2015 through 2017 with the Portland Sea Dogs, and the last 2 seasons with the Pawtucket Red Sox. Of course, all of those as the pitching coach for those teams. So he's worked his way up. They like him. Just giving him another chance to move up. And I think developing coaches, this is how you get good coaches into your organization. I know that there was, I think it was last year was a Kevin Bowles who didn't love the fact that he didn't even get an interview in Boston for the bench coach job, or that he wasn't hired. But at any rate, he wound up in another organization because he wasn't thrilled with the way that all went down. It was what kind of got reported there. But at any rate, it's 3 new coaches on the major league side. I think that fills all their vacancies on the bench, right, Ian?
Well, I think they announced the hitting guy as the assistant hitting coach, though.
Yeah.
Oh, one of them stayed, right?
Yeah, Tim Hire stayed.
Hire stayed. They only got rid of him. You're right.
Because the assistant hitting coach was Andy Barkett.
Yeah, you're right. So, I think that's everything. Unless, I guess, no, because no one else is.
No one else left.
Yeah.
I don't think, unless I missed something.
And I'm trying to think who their bench coach was, if he's interviewed for anything, but I don't think he has.
Renicky?
Because Renicky, he's a little old for that.
No, he didn't interview. So Renicky stayed.
So that's everything.
Fabulous is still at third. Everybody's still there.
Yep.
So but anyway, it's that's the changes up in Boston. I think that's about it.
Well, there's one more signing we should probably discuss before trade, which we can kind of.
So I guess just looking down to the minors. First of all, if you want to look at SoxProspects.com, if you go to that's the wrong page. SoxProspects.com/international.htm. That is our international signings page, and we have updated bonus numbers for a lot of the signings who are official. Mm-hmm. Heading into October, the Red Sox were at about $3.3 million, which meant they had about $2 million left. And this October, the Red Sox gave $750,000, which is the second highest bonus they gave out during this international signing period, to Chi-Jung Liu out of Taiwan, a right-hander who was pitching most recently in the Asian Baseball Championship, pitching for Taiwan on a team with Zhu Weilin. Liu is a 20-year-old and reportedly was getting up to, 98?
98. Yeah, there's video of him getting up to 98 out of the bullpen.
Well, there was a report he got up to 100. But
maybe. I don't know. I saw 98 in the video.
Yeah, so he reportedly sits 93 to 96 and topped out at 97 and 98. Low 80s slider and a low 80s changeup. Both are pretty reportedly inconsistent. I mean, he's 20. My guess is he comes over, is at least in extended spring training this year, Ian. And then we'll see what happens depending on how ready he is. I could see him going anywhere from the GCL to Greenville after some time and extended.
Yeah, I think it's lots going to depend on how he looks when he comes over in spring training. But I would say extended would not rule it out. But, I mean, it's an interesting move. They had a bunch of money left over, as you talked about. Like, watching some video, he was like a two-way player. He had some arm issues, so he didn't pitch for a while.
He took a break for 2 full seasons. It wasn't like he had Tommy John or something. He just took a break.
But he was still playing he was still a position player. He was playing second base. So he's a good athlete, it seems. The video was interesting. I think his numbers in the Asian Baseball Championship were absurd. He struck out like a bunch of guys, and it was almost every hitter he faced he struck out. I can't remember.
Do you know where you could get such information, Ian? Oh, actually, it might not be updated.
I don't think it's on the fall winter page.
It's there. I need to update it though.
Oh, okay.
Because I have him with 6 strikeouts and 3 1/3, but I think it's actually more like.
I thought it was like 8.
I think it's like 9 in 5 1/3 or something.
Yeah.
Because in the championship game, the box didn't get put up.
Gotcha. But yeah, so he had a very good Asian Baseball Championship. Mm-hmm. Red Sox jumped in, and it's an interesting move. And again, it's like just you got to reestablish that pitching depth.
Let's do it. I love it.
Keep it going.
I love it.
And so moving on to now what we're going to discuss with our season end rankings, we did not know about his signing when we did the rankings, so he's not on there. And maybe, I don't know if you want to discuss where you think about where you'd slot him based on what you know, but I don't really have any idea.
Well, it's funny you should ask that, Ian, because patron Kyle Costigan had a similar question to ask.
Really?
He says, "Hey guys, appreciate all the hard work you put in each year. My question is in regards to Chi Jung Lu and how you assess where he belongs in the top 60 rankings. Seeing as information is limited, his age in the league he's coming from, how do you assess where to put him in the top 60 compared to other young players?" So there's a game that's really popular, particularly in England, Ian. It's called darts. And what you do is you put the top 60 on the wall and throw a dart at it. I don't know. I have no idea.
So I'm looking at it. I think he'd probably go in around like 25 to 30.
Thanks for the
probably
email,
30.
Kyle.
And my logic, thank you, Kyle, for the question. My logic is like I'm looking at the guys around 30. You're looking at like Brock Bell, Felix Cepeda.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Jay Shugart, Yohan Ibar. That sounds about right for him. Like those guys all have upside, but there's some questions.
Without having seen him, I would want to be conservative, and I think that's where he's like. Because look at you, Johan Martinez.
Yeah. Big
fastball, pitches backwards, which is kind of weird.
Right. So I think around 30 would be where I would. Well,
30 is Yohan Ibar. I would take Ibar right now, but I could see him moving past him based on how he looks in the spring.
Well, it depends, too. If he's a starter, then he would obviously be ahead of Ibar.
Sure. Yeah, so it's probably worth mentioning he was pitching in relief for Taiwan, and he pitched in relief this year. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I would say right around 30 because a lot of those guys are relievers. They're younger types with some upside. Like Brock Bell seems like a pretty fair comparison for him, frankly.
Chase Shugart was at 31, worked as a starter this year, is probably a reliever long term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brock Bell is probably a reliever. I don't know. Actually, I didn't see Bell, but like Martinez is a reliever. Felix Cepeda's got some upside. Like, yeah, right around there.
Yeah, that sounds right. So he probably back end of the top 40, back quarter of the top 40.
Yeah, I would say closer to 30, but yeah.
Yeah, close, but like on the backside of 30. He wouldn't be higher.
Yes.
Although, I mean, I guess if you move Crawford down, that's the other bit of news too. I alluded to it, but Cutter Crawford posted a photo on his Instagram with Dr. James Andrews, which you never like to see, and faked Ian out a little bit.
Yeah, that was confusing. You had to explain it to me.
Yeah, so because they, sometimes they use cadavers, but sometimes they take a ligament, or no, they take a tendon from elsewhere in your leg or something and put it in your elbow.
Yeah,
Actually, at work today, we were explaining to someone what Tommy John surgery is, and they immediately regretted asking when they asked about it.
The cadaver part is very on point for Halloween tonight.
Ooh.
Okay, don't do that. Joe, edit that out. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
But yeah, do you want to discuss rankings now?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
We had a pretty good, I think this year we did a pretty good job.
Even though
a lot of discussion and
I held the process up for about 3 weeks. I'm still sorry about that, by the way.
It happens.
I had a hell of a quarter this month, put it that way. Yeah, looking at the rankings this month, like I said, a lot of changes. Everybody but 4 players in the top 20 moved, like we said up top. Other than that, literally everybody moved at least one spot. I guess not necessarily. Okay, 2 guys, Felix Cepeda and Jonathan Diaz didn't move randomly. Juan Chacon didn't move either. Very weird. Anywho, yeah, so we had a lot of back and forth. We had we had 2 calls, Ian, of about the first one was about 45 minutes. The second one was about hour and a half.
Yeah,
it wasn't 2 hours because I had to go on work call.
I think it was about 2 hours.
Was it?
I mean, we also had a lot of discussions offline too.
Offline, well, yeah, on our forum and stuff like that. A lot of back and forth, a lot of discussion. At the end of the season, more so than just kind of a monthly update, we want to make sure we're fully thinking things through. That's kind of when, like, for me, how I ranked guys last month matters a lot less.
Yeah.
Because I think from a month to month during the season, just to let people in on our process a little bit, for me, I like to see some consistency of, okay, you had these guys ranked in this order last month. This month you have switched them. Why?
Yeah,
and it could just be I was wrong last month. But
I think I'm like the one who keeps the most status quo. I'm like the most hesitant to change throughout the year, because usually if I'm changing something, it's because I've heard something or seen something.
Right.
Like on field, I don't really care as much about the stats so much.
Yeah. And that's the thing that people need to realize, because I know, like, so for example, like Chase Shugart moved down and someone was furious with us on the forum because he had a really good statistical season. And I saw him in person and I really liked him. But it was more just reassessing everything. It's not him moving down. It's reassessing where he should be based on what we saw, based on the stats, based on the bulk
what we're hearing. Yeah.
What
but
we
I think
heard.
at the end of the day, too, it's a snapshot in time. Like, these
Always.
things are fluid. Like, that's what you need to remember with these rankings is, like, I'm pretty confident. I'm very confident what we have right now. But after spring training, they're going to change again. Like, things change over the offseason. Frankly, they would change right now because Cutter Crawford would move down. If
he's probably going to move down if we have some kind of update this offseason. No, I think he would stay in the rankings.
He'd be in like the 40s.
But he's going to drop into the back third of the top 60.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to need to update them at some point.
Oh, we will. We have to.
If you know what I mean.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's true. So maybe we'll take that opportunity. But
yeah.
Anyway, so, let's start at the top. I mentioned Tristan Costas, Brian Mata are 1-2. No questions there. Just to touch briefly on Mata in the Arizona Fall League, we heard great things there. He was 97, 98 out of the bullpen.
Yeah, I had a little tweet thread last week, kind of just wrapping up.
Do you have that, or should I grab it?
I'm grabbing it right now.
Okay.
Of just kind of wrapping up what I've been hearing from the AFL. And what I'm hearing about Mata, just the numbers, people didn't really care. The stuff is legit. Like,
the numbers weren't even bad or anything.
No, he walked a bunch of guys. He had like one bad outing at the end. He ended up walking like 10 guys and
11. And he walked 11 guys and 10 in a third. That's weird. Yeah, I'm going to find that because that's strange.
Yeah, he had like 2 bad outings, I think. Yep. But anyway, like evaluators who saw him were just blown away with his stuff. He's up to 98. And kind of the takeaway was not everyone's convinced he can start. He's got a chance. And I know people who think he can start and have put as high as like a low end number 2 on him. Mm-hmm. But there's other guys who think he's out of the pen. But either way, they think it's potential impact player. So, yeah. He was his stuff was good.
He walked 5 guys in his last 2 appearances.
Yeah.
There were 2 innings.
Yeah.
So he still walked too many guys, but it's his first time working in relief. He's had a long season. I'm surprised they sent him.
I think they just wanted to get him a few more innings, but yeah, at the end of the day, like, he's an exciting prospect. I'm in the same boat of starter reliever still TBD, but the stuff is good enough that it's going to play in either place. And it's just a very encouraging season for him. The reports coming back were always just really good. So
for sure,
but he wasn't like the same thing can be said about Costas. Just briefly touching him, everyone who saw Costas was like, "Oh yeah, that's a guy." Like,
as I said on the podcast, I'm very interested after seeing him in person. I'm interested to see what he becomes because
his body is so.
Yeah, we talked about it. So let's
I saw him in Instructs like a month ago, or less than a month ago.
No, we haven't talked about Instructs either. Do you want to talk just 2 minutes? About
maybe
the
at
fact
the end.
You didn't see anything. Yeah,
there just wasn't a lot going on. The Instructs changed the way they did it. They barely played games. It was more just like workouts. So there just wasn't a lot. It wasn't as useful as past Instructs.
Yeah, so we might.
But like I did see Costas for a few days, and yeah, he's a weird frame. Like his arms are so long. It's unbelievable. Like his limbs are just ridiculously long. And I think what is he listed at, like 6'4", 240? He looks all of that, and he can hit though. Like he's gonna rake. And I like to swing more than I did at times in the in spring training, where he seemed like he was kind of figuring things out.
Right.
But the power is legit. Like I saw him take BP and hit some absolute tanks. So yeah, he was. I think all of us had him at number 1, and all of us had Mata at 2, and then kind of
there's a drop off.
Yeah,
there's a drop off after those 2. Those are the only 2 that we have ranked as 5s on the 2 to 8 scale that we use. 20/80 would be a 50. there's no question those guys are 1-2 for me. Even at 3, I had a hard time. Because to me, and we talked about this a little bit, there's kind of a tier that's the next 5 guys.
Yeah, I agree.
The way they wound up was Jay Groom at 3, Gilberto Jimenez at 4, Bobby Dahlbeck at 5, Jaron Duran at 6, Tanner Houck at 7. If you ranked those guys, and that's actually how I wound up ranking them. If you ranked those guys in the opposite order, I wouldn't really argue with you.
You can make a case for them in any order.
I couldn't figure out who to put at 3.
Yeah. 3's the hardest one because I didn't really want to put any of them at 3.
No.
And that was kind of like...
It felt too high for all of them.
Yeah, and I ended up going with Groom because just the upside, he looked really good in Instructs just physically. Yeah. And I saw him pitch this year too with Lowell, and this stuff it looked good. It was, it wasn't as crisp, but the velocity was there. The curveball was still there.
Right.
So it's just an upside play for me. Like if he figures things out, he's got higher ceiling than Brian Mata does as a starting pitcher. Mm-hmm. But the question is health. I mean, I think when in our rankings call, that was what you were hammering home is like he has not pitched more than 50 innings in a season, 60.
Oh, he 40. Just had literally like 2 years off.
Yes, so like 40. His career high in innings is 57.
He probably starts. He's got to. I mean, is there any chance they start him in Salem this year? Probably not.
No, he has.
I would put him in. I would put him in Greenville.
You do him like the Thad Ward pan. Put him in Greenville for a month and a half, and then promote him after he shoves.
Yeah, I mean, our projected rosters right now. That's what we have. We have him in Greenville, and you give him the chance to move up quickly. And there are guys who are in the Salem rotation that we're projecting that could easily bump to the bullpen.
Right, and because the crazy thing about him is he has to be added to the Rule 5 next off season.
Yeah,
like
he's got to move quick.
Yeah,
I mean, you got to get a significant amount of time in Salem, if not to put him in Portland.
I mean, if he can finish the year in Salem, then he'll be back on track. Go up to Portland next year because it's kind of like when Denny Reyes was added to the 40-man last offseason. He had barely pitched in Portland, but still,
we could talk about that move.
Reyes had way more innings under his belt, but yeah, like Groom is. I mean, the upside's still there, and like kind of the position player with the most upside of this crew to me is the next guy who we put at 4, Gilberto Jimenez. Mm-hmm. And he was just someone that the reports were glowing. I saw him a lot in Lowell. I went a ton to Lowell because it was the most exciting team in the system by far. And every time he went there, he just did something exciting, and he's that type of player. And then I think the interesting thing to me was at Instructs, he's definitely tweaking his swing.
Yeah.
We talked about a lot during the season how he's just very slap happy, and the whole thing is just like put the ball in play and use your speed because he's an 80 runner.
Right.
In Instructs, he was trying to square the ball up a little more. He was letting the ball get deeper, kind of like keeping the bat in the zone longer. It was better. Obviously there's going to be some bumps and bruises or, some issues along the way when you're transitioning from more of like a slap and run approach to this. But I liked what I saw that he's willing to make the adjustments. And I think he just has like that feel and the makeup to be able to take to that. And if he can take to like a slightly more power swing, because he's never going to be a big home run guy. No. But if he can just be like someone who you don't have to worry about like them being like, okay, we're going to throw high fastballs, like prove you can beat us. Yeah. If he can do that, then he's going to be in the top 2, top 3 of the system next year, no doubt, because the ceiling is immense. I mean, you're looking at, you can dream on, this is like best case scenario. You're dreaming on, 4 at least average to better tools with an 80 grade run in there. Yeah. One of them being, so the power is really the only thing he's lacking. So he's just a really exciting guy. And obviously his numbers were insane. If you think about it in the context of an 18-year-old in the Penn League, hitting 360 with an almost 400 OBP and slugging 470, granted greatly aided by his speed, but still.
Almost all speed. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, we wanted to give him the offensive, not wanted to, but based solely on rate stats, he probably should have been the system's offensive player of the year. We gave it to Costas because Costas was in full season. Yeah. But, based solely on the rate stats, it would have been Jimenez. Mm-hmm. But sample size counts for something. Yeah. So, but yeah, Jimenez, it was tough. That's the thing. It's just if the adjustments take and he starts driving the ball more, he would have been no question my number 3.
Correct. But that's an if, and I'm not sure. Yeah, it's going to take time with him.
Yeah. Number 5, 6, 7 were Dahlbeck, Duran, and Houck. All 3 of them were in the Arizona Fall League, Ian, so that's your cue to give us what you heard on those guys.
Well, Dahlbeck wasn't.
Oh, Dahlbeck wasn't. I'm sorry. Dahlbeck's going to be playing for Team USA in the Premier 12 tournament. Right.
He was out in Arizona, but yeah.
Yeah, he's out of Arizona because he lives there.
Yeah, and yeah, Houck was good. He was working as a starter again, which I thought was pretty interesting. But he actually had.
Sorry if I can interrupt real quick. He had a great interview on the minor league baseball podcast called "The Show Before the Show." I think.
Okay. Did not see that.
Yeah, no, it's I had texted you, but as we talked about before the show, you don't get my texts apparently. But no, he had a really good appearance on there where they talked about him working as a starter, and it was legit. He had innings left because of the fact that he moved to the bullpen during the year, but he wanted to throw his changeup a lot, and I guess he did work on throwing it more down there. Fifi the cat agrees.
Sound like a person, Jesus.
Yeah, no, that's the thing with that's the one problem with using the podcast mic is it's going to pick her up more. Anyway, I know. This is now the third wheel on the podcast. Great.
This is great.
Joe Tetrault might have his work cut out for him. But anyway, Houck is, he was actually really thoughtful about what he was doing, had some really good questions and answers about the evolution of his repertoire, which we've talked about plenty on here.
Because obviously we talked about he switched between breaking balls, he switched between fastball grips. They tinkered with him a lot.
Yeah, they've tinkered with him a ton. So it was I really highly recommend listening to that. Again, it's called The Show Before the Show. He was anyways. But yeah, what did you hear?
Just the numbers were very good. Just to put them in context, 23 innings, 6 starts, 26 strikeouts, gave up 12 walks, which is high, obviously, and only 19 hits though. 7 earned runs, kept the ball down, and the stuff looked good. He was 92 to 96 miles an hour. Mixing in a slider and the changeup. He threw some really good sliders. I think, actually, I want to say, MLB.com, Mike Rosenbaum over there, Golden Sombrero, who was a really good follow for the prospect, interested people, tweeted out some video of some of his sliders from the fall league. And he had one that was like almost 3,200 RPM on an 86 mile an hour slider, which is absurd.
That's nuts.
Like average is like 2,400 on a breaking ball. So if he's snapping off like 3,000 plus RPM sliders, like that's really good especially for the analytically inclined teams are going to see that very favorably. But again, kind of like what we talked with Mata, long term, no scouts aren't sold. He can stick as a starting pitcher. The arm slot question, the changeup is still a work in progress. There are questions, but how he looked in the fall league was very encouraging. And I think it was enough of a look that you have to run him out as a starter next year and see what he does there before thinking about moving into the pen.
Well, and that's part of why at one point I had him at number 3 for me, even though he wound up at 7.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that starter is more on the table than we thought it was.
Yeah.
I don't think it's still what I would project him to do.
Well, no. And the other thing for me is just, as a starter, I'm not sure how much upside there is. Like, I don't think there's like that third pitch, like Mata's developed. Like, the lack of the third pitch is just something that concerns me. So, I was very encouraged, and everyone I talked to was too. So that was another. I mean, this is going to kind of be a trend. A lot of the guys had very good falls.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did you get anything on Duran or no?
Just like he had a good fall. He was like kind of more the same. There wasn't a lot that isn't known about him now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He's out there.
Like he kind of is what he is. Like I don't know the reason he ended up in this range for me is just I'm not sure how much upside there is. Like he's going to hit.
He lacks Jimenez's upside.
Exactly. He can hit. He can field a little bit. He's a center fielder. He's got really good speed, obviously, but there's just not a lot of power. Like I'm just not convinced it's anything more than like a number 8, like a bottom of the order hitter. If he's an everyday guy, I just don't know if there's enough juice in the bat.
And
that was kind of
outfielder.
No, I think he could maybe be an everyday guy, but I don't think he's like a top of the order guy.
Right. You're saying upside. Yeah.
Yes, upside wise. He doesn't have the same ceiling as Jimenez or Groom, which is kind of what pushed him into this next tier for me.
Right. So he's at 6 ahead of Houck, and then Dahlbeck. I mean, the interesting thing too with I mentioned this with both Dahlbeck and Duran is not knowing what the hell's going on with the baseball.
Yeah, it's especially because we just watched a playoffs where they 100% changed the baseball.
Well, they had to have, and it's kind of funny. I listened to a great interview on. I think it was on the Athletics Daily podcast. I'm just hyping other podcasts right now. This is what I do when there's like a month between our episodes. The Athletics Daily podcast is called The Lead. And actually a buddy of mine is one of the hosts. And they did an interview with a astrophysicist.
Probably.
Who
someone
had
really
some
smart.
interesting theories about what's happening with the baseball, and she noted, I hadn't thought about this, MLB bought a big piece of Rawlings this past year.
Mm-hmm.
And after they did that, they decided to use the same ball in AAA, and so they had to double the production. And there are certain things that happen. You do things like that. For example, if they are using heaters to dry the baseball. So there's two different home run booms. There's the home run in 2017, which this astrophysicist they talked to said was about they used different seams. The seams were different. And they remember there was the rash of pitchers getting blisters. It was because of the seams on the baseball. They fixed that. But then this past year, it ballooned again, and she thinks it's because they must have been doing something different during production, unintentionally, that was causing them to the problem. It's a drag thing. It stays more spherical after it gets hit, and therefore there is less drag, and that is what is causing the ball to go further and the ball to not go further in the postseason because they were doing something different. I don't know if it's just an overtime thing or what, but yeah, for whatever reason. But here's the thing, right? When you look at, on the one hand, Bobby Dahlbeck, he has true 70 pop.
If you want to throw an 80 on his raw, I wouldn't argue with you.
Okay, yeah. So, and he could potentially get to 70 in game. It's probably going to wind up being more like 60, 65 based on the hit
I would say
pool.
65 probably.
Probably 65 power. I have no question projecting him, best case scenario to be a regular 30 home run hitter in the major leagues. No question. Mm-hmm. Best case scenario, right?
Yes.
That happens no matter what the baseball is, because the baseball going further doesn't help him, because when he hits a home run, he hits the hell out of the home run, right? He's not going to have many that are going to fall just short, that are going to go out with a different baseball. On the other hand, so he doesn't change, but meanwhile, you have players who do become bigger home run hitters. So 30 home run power in the regular season this year doesn't mean a whole lot.
Well,
The number of players who hit 30 home runs, it's just like we've said on here a number of times. If not many players are hitting 30 home runs, he becomes a lot more valuable.
Correct. And we kind of ran through it after the season. I was looking at the list of players, and there were some names you're just like, are you kidding me? Like this
Edwin Escobar.
Brett Gardner had like 28 home runs this year.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It was how many? It was. But
I remember that because I looked at Gardner because I was trying to get a comp for Duran. And it's like, nope, not Gardner.
Yeah. What did he have? How many? There was something. Was it like 70 guys? Yeah, 28 home runs this year. But yeah, it's
silly.
Dahlbeck's power. Yeah, it makes sense. But the thing that I think we're going to have to go back to is strikeouts are a problem. They were down this year. And this is the thing I kind of like that pushed him to where he was for me is
strikeouts are a problem for Dahlbeck, not in the game.
Correct, for Dahlbeck.
Yes.
He cut his strikeout rate this year, though, to around 25% from 33 last year.
Something like that.
Is that sustainable? That is my question. And if that is sustainable, then his projection changes. But I need to see that for another year before I'm willing to be comfortable with that he has made the necessary changes to cut that strikeout rate. Because strikeout rate is going to jump when you go to big league. You're facing better pitchers, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he's not going to get he's just going to get pounded with secondary stuff away and like fastballs way up in the zone. And if he's not willing to, and he does have a good eye, like he had good walk totals this year. I think he had over 70 walks this year. Like he will take a walk, but still it's the strikeouts. That's the whole thing. And that's why he's kind of pushed him down to where he is.
Right. And then, the thing with Duran, the point I was going to make as far as the baseball is he's not going to hit many home runs no matter what baseball they're using. Right. Maybe he gets another 5.
Yeah, maybe he becomes like an 8 to 10 guy instead of a 5 to 7.
Maybe 15. Say he gets to 15.
Yeah. Doesn't really change his projection.
It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't.
So,
and that's what I'm saying is these guys are who they are no matter what ball they're using. It's just how valuable is their skill set in a, quote, dead ball game. Duran's skill set is so much more valuable because he puts the ball in play. He can run, lets his speed work for him. I like both of them better if I know we're not getting the Incrediball.
Correct.
That we had this year.
Yeah. And that's why I think kind of just to sum up this little range, it's like Groom and Jimenez are the dream on ceiling guys. Dahlbeck, Duran, Halleck are more like higher floor, lower ceiling, but we still like them.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think Houck and Darwinzon Hernandez could be a great 1-2 in the back of a bullpen in the very near future.
Correct.
Looking at the next tier, I guess, would be the next three we figured out, Ian. We all had some combination of Noah Song, C.J. Chatham, and Thaddeus Ward from 8 to 10, and that's the order we wound up ranking them in. I don't think any of us felt too strongly about how to order them.
No. I mean, Song, we still don't know what's going on.
No, I think at this point, I'm comfortable saying that he probably
will pitch next year for the Red Sox. But yeah, I mean, his stuff looked good. There was an article on Baseball America talking about him pitching I pitched in like a preseason or pre-showcase game for this tournament coming up, the Olympic qualifier.
Yeah,
I guess he looked really good, it sounded a lot like what we saw during the season because we saw him a bunch of times in Lowell. Both of us did.
I saw him twice, yeah.
I saw him like twice or three times. But yeah, we kind of know what he is. Chatham, I think, is kind of someone who was a little surprising. I think all year we were waiting to push him down, but it's just like he kind of is what he is, but he's fine. And in this day and age, that's like he's a very usable player, if that makes sense, especially with the way he's such he would fit perfectly on the Tampa Bay Rays roster, in the Matt Duffy, Joey Wendell role. You know what I mean? On the bench. That's kind of going
to say, what is it, Robertson, Andrew Robertson?
Yeah, Daniel Robertson. Yeah, that's kind of what he is, a utility bench infielder, which is why I would not be surprised at all if he's on the Red Sox next year in that role. But that's yeah, he and even coming away, talking to people coming out of Arizona, scouts saw the same thing. Nothing really stands out, but this is a guy who's going to play in the big leagues for a while. And he can play shortstop, which is a hugely valuable tool to have on a bench guy. And so, yeah, I like him. And that's kind of why he ended up where he did.
Yep. And then Ward, I mean, we didn't have much of an eye on him. I saw one outing, and it was the one where he went 3 innings and got hit by the baseball.
Yeah.
I liked what I saw before that. I mean, he definitely belongs in that tier. I want to see what he does against AA hitting this year.
That's the thing for me is he started in Greenville, which is interesting. He changed his pitch repertoire. I need to see more of it. But he's someone, though, I could see rising pretty quickly next year if what he did this year is legit.
Yeah, I mean, we've got him projected to start the season in Portland, and I think that's the most likely outcome.
I agree.
It's going to be he's moving up quickly. But, hey, what the heck? He's earning the moves up. So, yeah, that's our next three. The next grouping was probably from 11 to 15. Mm-hmm. And that group wound up getting ordered Ryan Zephyr-John, Aldo Ramirez, Matthew Lugo, Chris Murphy, and Nick Decker. A whole lot of Lowell. Matter of fact,
every one of them.
Almost all Lowell. I mean, Lugo was only in Lowell for a couple weeks, if that.
Yeah.
Or maybe a week. But yeah, I mean, this is all short season, which is another thing that stands out about this list. Once you get outside of that top 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from 11 to 20, it's 8 Lowell guys, I think, 8 Lowell guys, and then Marcus Wilson and Brian Bella.
Bayo, yeah.
Bayo, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. Well, I guess Rafaela I wouldn't count as Lowell yet.
I mean, he ended the season in Lowell, but yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't count Lugo either. But at any rate, yeah, I mean, those are all guys. I don't think we need to get into them as detailed. We've talked about all of them. But it's just, there was a lot of movement there. Aldo Ramirez moved up to 12 from 17. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of when you look at that Lowell rotation, how do you rank it? And we wound up basically ranking it Song, Zephyr-John, Ramirez, Murphy, but we like all 4 of them.
Yeah, I agree. They're very close. You could make a case for Zephyr-John above Song, frankly, if you wanted to. You could make a case for Ramirez above Zephyr-John. It's a very fluid order. Mm-hmm. They all were very good, and I would say it's an exciting group that should be able to kind of move together at least to start next year. I would actually not to start next year because I bet Murphy goes to Salem, and I wouldn't be surprised if Zephyr-John and Song did either. But so I think the college guys at least might stay together. So it's a good crew, and there are also guys like that. If Zephyr-John comes out and shows that the changeup improvement he had this year is legit, and now he's a 3-pitch guy with that frame and that velocity, that's a guy who could move up. Ramirez, same thing. Murphy, I don't know if he has as much upside as the other guys, but still he looks like a serviceable back end starter. It's a good crew. And then I think Lugo, it's I saw him a few games, didn't really get a great feel for him. He didn't have a great year, but it's just a projection upside thing,
Lugo?
Yeah. With Lugo, it's just an upside thing. He hit 250? about?
I mean, he hit 250 in Lowell, but that was in 2 games.
He hit 257 in the GCL too.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. He was kind of up and down. He started slow and then got better, and I think he kind of slowed down a little bit again at the end. But he looks the part, man. I mean,
yeah, he's athletic. There's physical projection. He can run. He's an interesting guy, and he's someone who I think the kind of guy they need in the system because they don't have a lot of them.
Yeah, and then as far as the rankings, to me, I mean, Cameron Cannon was next at 16. Mike and I both had him there. You had him 17 behind Anthony Flores at 16. But then starting kind of with 16, I think, Ian, 16, 17, pandemonium. I had no idea what to do, man. I mean, that's when you start getting into the dartboard, I think, a little bit. The top 20 rounded out. Cannon at 16, Brian Bayo at 17, Anthony Flores 18, Ceddanne Rafaela, who in our last ranking was 34th, at 19, and then Marcus Wilson at 20. Rafaela, we haven't talked about a ton. He's a short infielder. I guess I could call him a shortstop, but he moved around second, third, short. Utility guy who spent most of the year in the Gulf Coast League. We talked about him actually a fair amount.
Yeah, because I saw him.
You saw him. So again, it's just kind of.
You could make the case from 17 to 20 to frankly 30 something.
I think 32 is that group.
You could make a case in anyone in that order.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think as just a point of reference, this 17 to 32 is not very good compared to the Rays 17 to 32 or whatever, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's still probably I don't think it's a bottom 5 system anymore.
No, it's
certainly not a top half system yet.
Yeah, the depth is still not there. There's some guys here who in other systems would be in the 30s, but there's some interesting guys there too. I think Jorge Rodriguez jumped up a decent amount, right?
Yeah, he jumped from 37 to 23.
He's just someone who the report's really good. I saw him briefly in Lowell.
He's a left-hander, right-hander.
Left-hander.
His
numbers are insane.
Spent most of the year in the Gulf Coast League. A lot of strikeouts, not a lot of walks.
Yeah, he struck out 58 guys in 47 innings, walked 9, gave up 35 hits. He's just a lot of deception, projectable. Yeah, he's 18. Yeah, he's an interesting guy.
Yeah, 58 Ks in 47 innings will get my attention. For sure. Yeah, so that's that. I mean, looking at the guys in that range, I mean, Pedro Castellanos at 21. He had, what was the number, 8 home runs in the last 2.5 months of the season. If he actually has power,
he hit some tanks and strikes.
I could see him moving up into almost the top 10 pretty quick.
Yeah, he hit some tanks. I think
if he goes to Portland and he's hitting bombs.
Yeah. We should also mention Anthony Flores because he's someone who has fallen.
Flores, I didn't know how the hell to rank, man.
I saw him again at Instructs, and I'm a little concerned. I mean, I understand it's he was a young guy playing above age group wise, when he was in Lowell this year, but just the body is much bigger than it was when he started. He's definitely put on some weight, not necessarily good weight. The speed is decreased.
Yeah, not that he was fast to begin with.
No, I'm not convinced he's a shortstop anymore. It's just there's a lot of questions now, and he just didn't look good when I saw him both with Lowell or in Instructs. He had flashes, but he just didn't look comfortable at all. And hopefully this offseason is good for him and kind of clear his head, get back to what he did 2 years ago when he was, because Instructs last year he was electric, but this year it just wasn't there.
Even in the spring he looked like he was a shade over his head, such that when he didn't go to Greenville, we got it, but he didn't look like he was. We thought there was a chance he was still going to get to Greenville eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
Now he went to Lowell and hit below the Mendoza line.
Yeah.
Yeah, Flores, I had a really hard time ranking. Same thing with Brandon Howlett, who's down to 22 from being at 18 last month. He was in such an aggressive assignment at Greenville, but I don't know how they're going to fill out the Greenville roster this year. I've got some ideas on what might happen, but for that Greenville lineup, you've potentially got Brandon Howlett, Cameron Cannon, Matthew Lugo, Ceddanne Rafaela, Anthony Flores. You can't put Nick Northcutt.
Yeah.
You can't put all of those guys on the Greenville roster, and you don't necessarily want to push Howlett to Salem if he's not ready yet.
No. So it's going to be interesting. And I think kind of the same with Howlett. Danny Diaz falls in that same boat. It's kind of a lost season.
Yeah, true. Yeah, we thought Diaz was going to be pushing.
He was a hard guy to rank for me too. But kind of we'll see.
Yeah, we will. Anybody else, Ian, that's worth mentioning on the rankings? I mean, like I said, Cutter Crawford wound up being 29. He, if we did the rankings today, is probably outside the top 40 because of the Tommy John.
Outside the top 40, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm trying to bring up the list to see who moved way up that we didn't.
Well, look at the spreadsheet now that I've got.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah. That's what I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, well, guys who moved up. I mean, you mentioned Rodriguez. Daryl Belen went from unranked to 39th.
I guess I guess we can talk briefly about like this 39 to like 41 range, and also Eduardo Lopez. I guess it's like the 35 to like 40 range.
All right.
41 is just, these are all guys we saw at Instructs. It was not as good a look as past Instructs as I mentioned, but like I saw a couple. Like Bellin was just interesting. Like physically, he's huge. Like not huge, like huge in a good way. Like he's probably like, he's listed at 6'4". I think he's bigger than that, but projection in the frame. Swing looked decent. Like, just I saw literally like 2 at-bats or 3 at-bats, and so it's just enough that like the upside was there that we sneak him in the back end of the 40. We'll see what we get in spring training and then go from there.
Right.
Same with Bonaccia. Like he was athletic, played short. He played third base and shortstop. Yeah, played third base, shortstop. Brian Gonzalez, similar thing. Like he's not as athletic. He's more like developed, but he's got some pop. Eduardo Lopez is like athletic, loose. I liked his, really didn't strike out a lot this year, which was encouraging, and walked a lot. Liked his swing, a pretty as I said, athletic guy. So he was interesting. Like they're all just kind of like lottery tickets that we had to put somewhere in kind of the 35 to 41 range is where we ended up sticking them all.
Yeah. It's just, it's you're throwing darts at the board. It's kind of like what we were talking about with Lou.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We just don't even. It's just you can make an educated guess. And so we mentioned Belen is up at 39 from not being ranked. Bonacci was 56, got bumped up to 40. Brian Gonzalez, somehow this got out of order. Gonzalez was actually 43. He moved up 7 spots from 48. Yeah, I mean there was some decent movement. I'm trying to think. Lower down there really wasn't a ton.
No, I don't. I mean, a lot of these guys, it's just like, as you said, like you could make a case for them at 40. You could make a case for them at 60. Like,
right. If a guy didn't get ranked, like,
yeah,
I saw someone was like, oh, you didn't rank Dana McGrath. It's like, well, he's at 66, and we could easily, if we did it again, have put him at 60. Like,
right, exactly. So, I think that's pretty much it. And if you have specific questions about a player and you want to discuss further the ranking, feel free to tweet us. Like,
I was wrong. Brian Gonzalez was 41, up from 48. Yeah. I'm sorry, I ranked by the wrong column.
But yeah, I'd be happy to like discuss on there. So if you have any specific questions, just get at us on Twitter, and we'll can kind of explain it more in depth why we have a player ranked there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's get to the rest of the emails, Ian.
Yep.
How does that sound? So last podcast, I think, or was the one before, I put out a call for international listeners. Got some really cool responses. Adam wrote in and said, in response to your request on the most recent podcast, this is Adam Rodriguez reporting in from Geneva, Switzerland. What's up, Geneva? So we're going international. Love it. We got another email from Paul Andriaco from Sydney, Australia.
Good eye, Mike.
Yeah, hey.
Sorry, I had to.
Fair enough. He had a cool little email, never miss a podcast. Shout out to Wesley Massenadas, Brian and Kerry Collane, who took me to a Sox game at Fenway on 25 August 2000, a 6-1 loss to the Rangers. Starting pitcher was Hippolito Pichardo. Hell yeah.
Oh, yes. What a throwback.
Love it.
I love that name, Pichardo.
Hippolito Pichardo.
Do you remember when they had Wilfredo Pichardo in the minor league system?
Yeah, that was the guy that could steal bases.
Yeah, he had like 70 steals.
He was like the one base stealer they had.
Yeah.
Yep. But so he said somehow, Pichardo, it was Wilfredo when he was in the DSL, and when he moved up, it was actually Wilfred.
Oh, yeah, he changed his name. Yeah. Right.
Anyway, so he says, somehow that got me hooked. Been back to watch games in 03 and 05. Never seen a minor league game. It's on my bucket list. Love your work. P.S. I have a question. What's the difference between control and command? Just joking. P.P.S. More Alex Spear if possible. The man is a god. Something we've been working on, actually. We're going to try and get him on to talk about his book, Homegrown, which is tremendous. But thanks for the email, Paul from Sydney. Love it. Next email, chaps, Jamie from England again. As always, fantastic work on the site and pod. Okay, so Jamie sent in 7 questions.
Oh, geez.
And I gave Jamie a crap on the forum the other day because he asked a question on the forum. I said, like 7 questions for the podcast wasn't enough. Do you want to just hit him? Here's what we'll do. If you send in more than one question, you're getting the lightning round answers to your questions. We're not going to go in depth.
Yeah.
We'll answer them, but you're going to get the quick hitters.
Yeah, especially because it's late.
Yes. So, number 1, what does Casas need to do to go from his current ranking to a Devers-type ranking? I guess this is maybe a season or two early, but I'm assuming absolutely mashing at Salem and getting to Portland by midseason to put him on track for Boston in 2021. Puts him firmly towards the top end of the 3 to 7 ranking and probably consensus top 50. I don't know what he means by 3 to 7 ranking.
Our grade. He wants. How does he
the grade, you think?
How does he become a 6? Like Devers, when he graduated, was a 6 or a 65. How does
3
he get
to
there?
7, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's actually a 2 to 8, but we don't really.
Yeah, but he's 3. I see why he's saying 3 to 7.
3 to 7. I get it now. Yeah, okay, and probably consensus top 50. It sounds right to me, Ian.
To get there, what he needs to do is become a third baseman again, which he can't, which is a problem. And
even if he rakes, though.
What?
Even if he rakes in Salem this year,
it's just first basemen are tough.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's the hard thing. And this is the big thing we saw with Devers. Devers' hit tool is significantly better than Casas's right now. So he needs to develop. The hit tool is the big thing for him.
That sounds about right. The pop is there. Same question with Mata. Not sure if there's been a Devers comp in terms of pitching. I can't think. I mean, maybe like a Buchholz might have been.
I don't know. Yeah. John Lester.
Like
I don't know.
Alan Webster was a thing for a minute.
Alan Webster. For Mata,
maybe Buchholz. It's Buchholz.
Mata, it's command and control.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. I mean, the stuff's there. Body's
there. Secondary took the step forwards this year. Next year is the command and control. That's the key for him.
Mm-hmm. Anthony Flores, could he do a, quote, Mata this year as in coming off a down year and start to show that promise and talent? What does that look like to you? I would say first order, Mata didn't have a year like Anthony Flores had this year. Mata's 2018 was way better than Flores' 2019. Yeah,
Flores, I think the biggest thing for me is he's got to come in better shape. Mm-hmm. And he's just got to show some consistency and show that he can actually handle more advanced pitching, because right now I'm not sure he can.
What are the hopes/expectations on Gilberto, the Flash Jimenez this season? I think we've already
we just
really dealt with that.
Right?
And not in on the Flash. I think that's
I don't like
bad
that either.
Comp. You got to be named Gordon to go with Flash.
I agree. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
There's already two Flash Gordons. If you have nickname suggestions for Gilberto Jimenez, send them in, though. 5, what does Duran have to do this year for the Red Sox to not re-sign Jackie Bradley Jr. for 2021?
Not a lot, because I don't think there's any chance.
I think there's a decent chance he gets traded this offseason.
I agree.
6, where does Brandon Howlett start next year? Gun to my head, Greenville? Chance to move up quickly?
Yep.
If he looks really good in spring training, I think they could send him to Salem, though.
Yes, just because of the logjam you described earlier.
7, you'll probably talk about this with an Instructs update, but sleepers/potential risers outside the top 40 for next year that we should keep an eye on. Hopefully this doesn't take up a whole podcast. Best of Jamie. Thanks for the email, Jamie. Ian, this is probably a good opportunity for you to talk about how Instructs was different really quickly.
Yeah, so in past years, basically what they did is they did workouts in the morning, and then in the afternoon they played games, or not afternoon, midday, they played games against the Orioles, Rays, or Twins. Mm-hmm. Last year, the Twins bowed out of Instructs, so it was just them, the Orioles, and the Rays playing. And then this year, everyone bowed out of Instructs, and so they didn't play any games against other teams. What they did do is they did a couple inter-squad scrimmages, which unfortunately none of them happened when I was down there. Mm-hmm. And they did like kind of live situational scrimmages with pitching machines and workouts in the morning, like the usual like spring training workouts, BP or stretching, PFPs, infield, outfield, BP. So it was more of like a workouts than it was like more gamey action. So which made it harder to scout the guys. But I guess just a couple names. I think Eduardo Lopez is one. He's one I mentioned earlier. Just I like the peripherals. I liked what I saw on limited, couple of at bats for the hitters, and then for the pitchers, I think Jorge Rodriguez is the guy. We've bumped him up into the top 30 already, but the stuff's good and it can definitely improve. He's still young. There's some projection, and he's just really hard to hit.
Very good. Like it. Last question comes to us from Austin. Austin says, does the Chaim Bloom hiring increase the likelihood that the team utilizes openers more frequently? My first response was they utilized the opener a lot this year. And I think it shows when you use the opener. And Bloom talked about this, I think, in his presser. The opener is something you do based on what you have. It's not a strategy you build around.
No, it's a roster constraint. It's we have these guys on our roster. How do we get the most out of them thing? It's not a let's have 3 starters and 2 openers going into the season. Like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they have an opener for one of the spots, because I think if ideally they're going to come in with Sale, Price, Rodriguez, Eovaldi locked in as 4 starters.
Yep.
5th starter
Depends
what they want to do there. It depends what happens in the trade market with guys like Mookie Betts, what happens with JD Martinez. So it's TBD. But I think with the 20, this is actually something I didn't think of until now. If they're going to carry 13 relievers, I think it makes the scenario more applicable or easier to pull off, though.
Yeah,
because you have that extra pitcher.
And I think they're going to churn. I think they're going to have a lot of churn at the back of the bullpen.
I mean, that's what the Rays did. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Well, they have the depth for it, and that's kind of what they were almost doing in September, except they just had all the guys up.
Yeah.
You look at the bullpen that we've got projected for them. It's Workman and Barnes at the top with potentially an acquisition. Darwinzon, Hernandez, Josh Taylor. I think those 4 guys are definitely locked in. Yeah. And then it's a churn. Well, Brian Johnson is there. I don't know what the heck they're going to do with Johnson.
I don't see him.
Who knows what's going to? Maybe he's the 3-inning or 4-inning guy that follows the opener. Who knows? If they decide to go that route.
Yeah.
But then you churn a Ryan Brazier, Marcus Walden, Osich probably stays up in a 13-man bullpen. But then you look at our projected Pawtucket roster. You've got Tanner Houck starting. If he moves to the bullpen, he could easily be up. Durbin Feltman at Pawtucket, who knows? But then you've got Colton Brewer, Travis Lakins, Bobby Pointer, Mike Schwarin. All of those guys I could see
Pizzardo, they're all.
Maybe not. I mean, Kelly, I don't think they come. I mean,
no, but I mean, they're all just like relievers with some like.
Yeah, but Pizzardo, I could see getting added.
Yeah.
Does Pizzardo need to get protected? He does, right?
Yeah, I think he will be too.
Yeah, so you're going to.
We'll have a really good feel for him if they protect him or not. And if he doesn't get protected, I wouldn't be surprised if he got picked. So
yeah, probably. I could see him getting picked for sure.
Yeah.
I'm on minor league free agents. I'm like, why aren't any of the guys that they're going to protect on here?
Yeah.
You look at. Yeah, we'll talk about next podcast, but it's like, they're definitely going to protect Chatham. They're definitely going to protect Dahlbeck.
They are protecting you also.
They're protecting you, Fee. Don't worry. But Pizzardo, I think, is probably number 3 on the list. Oh no, Marcus Wilson.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll get into that.
They've got room to protect all 4 of those guys.
The point is that they have a bunch of bullpen guys that they can churn. So yeah, churn and burn, as they say.
All right. Well, thanks for the question, Austin, and thank you for the question, everybody. Again, it's podcast@soxprospects.com if you want to send us an email, question, thought, concern, something you want us to talk about. If you want us to talk about it, that's what we want to do. If you want to hear about it, we want to talk about it. I'll eventually get that right. We want to talk about what you want to hear about. There it is. Thank you. I had a brain freeze for a minute there. That was terrible. Anywho, thank you, everybody, for listening. It's October. We're going to keep doing this through the off season as long as there's stuff to talk about. And if you send emails, that helps. But otherwise, we're ready to crank this up. It's going to be a heck of a ride. I think we're going to get a lot of things to talk about. I think next episode we're going to talk about this minor league minor league shuffling proposal, which is just wild. We've got a lot of thoughts on that. We were going to try and cram that into this episode, and then we realized that's its own show, man.
Yeah,
there's
a lot to dig into there.
There's a lot to talk about on there.
I think you and I both have some thoughts, too.
I have a lot of thoughts because I think everybody, just to preview, everybody's talking about this like MLB is evil or something. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that makes a lot of sense, and I think people aren't. I think people are assuming it's MLB being evil, and I think it's outside the box, man.
Yeah, there's some both sides.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of stuff in there that doesn't make any sense at all either.
So it's going to be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty wild. I'm pretty excited about that. So we've got that. I'm sure there's definitely going to be trades. There's definitely going to be player movement. We've got Rule 5, which people love, and with the 26-man roster, I think it might start to matter a lot more again. It's going to be a lot easier to stash a guy.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think we're going to see a lot more movement on the 40-man as a result, because I think guys like, do you keep Denny Reyes on the roster so that you can't protect a guy that's more likely to stick? Who knows? Maybe Denny Reyes is more likely to stick now if he got picked. Who knows? Anyway, a lot to talk about. We can't wait to get into it. Hit us up. Again, if you want to help support the show, patreon.com/SoxProspects. Just go to the site, SoxProspects.com. For Fifi the cat over there, for Ian, I'm Chris. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back in your eardrums pretty soon.